You don't have, and we don't have to know everything, but just as long as it works. Yeah. I'm gonna still check Facebook again. So hopefully she can get on. If not, I'll resend it again. Are we still on? Yeah. So, yeah, that's the one that's on now. Facebook, just welcome, welcome, welcome. I got Dr. Brown on. I see she's back. And she didn't go anywhere. That was me. I went somewhere. Yeah, I'm not gonna make it sound like she went somewhere because I did. I didn't go to the right place. Dr. Brown, how you doing? How things out in Phoenix?
It is amazing. It's still quite warm. We have 100 plus temperatures today, but I won't complain.
And we had a cool front come through Louisiana. It was in the 50s this morning, believe it or not.
Shut up. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, we're not there yet.
And your Cardinals, is it Cardinals out there? You know, the teams move so much. I mean,
Yes.
the Cardinals, they beat up on my Saints. Well, not my Saints, on my Cowboys. So they're playing now.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, I was trying to get up on
Yeah,
Periscope
my
again.
husband's
So what now?
got it. I was just gonna say my husband's school played my school this weekend, so we took a loss, but it's all good. He didn't rub it in my face, so we'll let it
What
slide.
schools were those? Kind of,
Florida State
we're
in
live,
South
so
Florida.
we're all kind of know, a little bit about you. That'll be a good way. Your husband's school and your school.
Yeah, Toby went to Florida State, and I went to South Florida.
Okay.
So USF versus FSU.
So they
He
handed
tells
it to.
people that I was this. Yeah, he tells people I was dyslexic, and I really meant to go to FSU, but I went to USF because the letters are backwards. I was like, no, there's no dyslexia here.
That is your go. That is cold. That is cold. But ask them who has the doctor in front of their name, even though he is an engineer. So we won't pull him too long. All right. I just wanted to kind of get Periscope back up and going. I think I am. Am I cooking with grease here, as they say down south? Let me flip my stand around. Oops. There we go. All right, we're live now. Back on Periscope, I believe, and everything is going live here. Now, thanks for coming on today as we talk about your routine. And I know one of the programs that you help women with and help people with really is, you know, getting on that schedule. And so I want to, a little bit behind target because of technical difficulties. I'm going to jump right into a brief presentation. And the kind of way I do Sunday night calls, Dr. Brown, is kind of bring you in to just comment a little bit on things as we go through it and kind of blow through the slides easy, quick, because I really found the conversations are the parts that really help people more when other people are really sharing and adding value. The other thing, you can go over to Have Your Best Week Ever inside of Facebook and actually join the group. Just knock, and then we'll let you in so you'll be able to join Have Your Best Week Ever. And if you're on Periscope listening in, you can actually jump over. That's right, jump over to um, have the best week ever. Have the best week ever.com and listen to us live on uh, inside of Hangout, live on the web. So that's what we want to do. Yeah, I wasn't talking to anybody on the headset. I was earlier. You know, it just sometimes you never know what's going on. So be careful when you see someone with a headset on. They may or may not be talking to you. They may actually be ear hustling you. So that's just a tip for the day. That's a tip for today. So as we get ready to go in there, I want you to go ahead over and join, and please get your pen and pencil out, because we're going to share some things that are going to add a lot of value to you as you get ready for this week. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick screen share so we can kind of jump right into it. I should have PowerPoint there. Is it there? Well, technical difficulties are kicking my butts right now. So let me go back and do what my technical person told me to do. Do not minimize the screen. So if you're ever using Google Hangout and you want to do a slideshow, don't ever minimize your screen. You know, that's just one of the things that you will learn. So you just jump back over to the Hangout, and then hopefully it should work here. Man, I mean, if you follow instructions in life, life will be easy. I swear it will be easy. But you know how us men are, we don't follow instructions like we should. So you can kind of attest to that, huh, Dr. Brown? As we go through this here, I wanted to talk about your daily agenda. And I think that's a key thing is if you look at your goals and how you're looking to grow, it's going to be based on your daily agenda. What do you do daily to grow towards your goals? I mean, that's the question you should ask yourself. What do I do daily to grow towards my goals? This is one of my favorite pictures from the summer. Some goals this summer was spending a lot of time with my son. This is my son, the tall one, and the short one is one of my first cousin's son. And they both love baseball, and they're best of friends, even though they're six years apart. And so it's just great to see that generational. But your daily agenda should allow you to live a life in harmony. And I say a life in harmony because really a life in harmony is about, people a lot of times say work-life balance, and I challenge that a little bit because balance implies that things should be equal, whereas harmony is more about finding that right cycle, a lot like an orchestra. And at the end of the day, you should begin with the end in mind. So sometime tonight, I ask you this question. If this is your format of actually writing your day out, what does your day look like? Yeah, go ahead and start you plan your day now. Begin with the end in mind. What are you going to get accomplished tomorrow? So one of the things I ask is, do you have a routine? And what is that routine? When you look at a routine, it can be broken down and really have a pattern in which you could actually grow that routine. And one of the things that we like to say about growing the routine is simply that you got to first identify the task. What is it that will fit in that routine? When should it happen? Is it time driven? Is it dates driven? Is it just something else has to happen and it's a response or reaction to what else has happened? And then what are the subtasks of that routine? Yeah, what are the subtasks? Because you're going to break it down into chunks, as they say. You're going to break it down into chunks. Dr. Nadia, as a mother that's wife and person with a busy professional career, how do you manage that? How do you really get in and manage that? Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick on Periscope, we got some folks want to hear both sides and see the slides. A couple things you can do. You can go to have the best week ever. When you go to have the best week ever, you're going to actually get the slides right there, as well as check us out on Facebook. Go to have your best week ever inside of Facebook, and that's the group. Hey, Dr. Nadia, as you were saying, I'm sorry.
One of the things that I do is make sure to map out my calendar and honor that. And I think that's a big piece of it. And so, like you said, looking at what needs to be done, identifying the task, maybe what are some of the subtasks, but also prioritizing. those tasks. So one of the things that I do with my team now, with my accountability, is we identify the top 3 outcomes. So what are the top 3 things that I want to get done? But the other piece is honoring that calendar. So I know you and I kind of chatted about the challenge for the month around getting 100 miles in or something. So that was a challenge that I took on. And one thing I found myself doing was I have this time blocked out to go work out every morning. And I started scheduling calls and appointments that bumped into some of that time where it was really, it's already early. I'm out west. And so, a lot of my counterparts are East Coast. So 8 a.m. is my 5 a.m., which is my workout time. And I was starting to schedule calls 9 a.m. Eastern, which was really starting to throw my day off. So I also think that prioritizing is important. I believe it was you that.
Did we lose you there for a moment, Dr. Brown? I think you froze up there a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. You were saying
Awesome.
you were talking about blocking out that time and how things were overflowing into it.
Yes, and so just being honoring the schedule. So like you said, my health is a priority. I need to make it a priority and honor that. And then identify what are the top 3 outcomes that I want to see for that day, and then make sure I structure my day around it.
I think that is very key. And when you look at that, how do you develop that routine? I want to jump back over to the slides. And this is one of the fun things that I'm learning is how to manage jumping back and forth. Because it's not as easy as people think it is. You got to have fingers going all over the place, and you got to do something we teach people not to do, is multitask, especially when you're on Sunday night call by yourself without your technical team. As we talk about, actually putting that routine in place. I have a slide up here talk about personal routines, and that's something I'm trying to do here as I look at it here, is to really begin to truly plan out. You talked about health, and that's a challenge I'm working with now, is to get down to what I call my speaking weight, instead of fighting weight, down to my speaking weight. So, before you go to bed, what is your routine? What is it that you do prior to going to bed? Because that's the time that you can actually control. And when you first wake up, that's typically a time that you can control. Any tips on that, Dr. Brown, of, doing those kind of things, as well as laying that week out? And we'll keep it in the health area, or you can talk about it a little bit in the business area too.
One thing I like to do is look back to see, before, at the end of the day, whenever that is, I look at what I accomplished for the day and just kind of map out what needs to happen the next day. Also, for me, a half hour before I go to sleep, I really like that downtime to unplug, get off of the computer, off my phone. A lot of times, if I'm not working too late, I'll spend some time chatting with my husband around, just about stuff, nothing too heavy, to just kind of decompress. We have so much going on throughout the day that sometimes when you don't do that, you're so wound up and you can't sleep. So I like to take some time to just kind of decompress. And one thing that we really work to do at night before we go to sleep is just to identify 3 to 5 things that we're grateful for, so that we're always, operating that attitude of gratitude. And it gives you some, you end your evening on a high note when you really take time to identify what you're grateful for.
And I challenge folks, there was just what you just said, and it came from, part of it came from Darren Hardy. Where I got it from was, he calls it book ending your days. How do you book in your days? Because in the morning you can kind of control what happens when you first get up, because you can get up early while everybody else is asleep. In the evenings, you can also book in your days. Hey, welcome to Periscope here. We're actually talking about your daily agenda. And as you look at the slide, you can go over to havethebestweekever.com, go over to havethebestweekever.com and join us and actually see the slides. You can't see them on Periscope. But when you look at it, Dr. Nadia, what about during the day? Because one of the biggest time robbers, I get people that call me. You ever get this to happen? They'll call you and say, I sent you a text. Did you see it?
No.
I hadn't looked yet. Or I sent you an email. Have you read it?
Yes. One of the things that I love that you had that down because Howard, one of the things that I found myself doing was I was checking email first thing in the morning, and so it put my entire day reactive mode because I'm reacting to whatever someone sent in throughout the night, or like I said, a lot of my counterparts the East Coast, they've been up for hours before I even get out of bed, and they've had time to come up with stuff that they want me to do. And I don't do that anymore. I get up in the morning, I have some time for devotion and just meditation time, some quiet time, go to the gym, get my workout in, and then I start my day. And I found that my days are a lot more structured. I'm a lot less frazzled, I'm easier to work with because I took control of my day and I set aside the times that I want to check my email, and I respond to them when it makes sense based on my schedule. And so I'm finding that when I do that and I stick to it, then I get a lot more accomplished. And like I said, I'm not as frazzled. I'm not having to put out as many fires or feeling like I'm just running around trying to catch up with everything because I started with the priorities and my day is a lot more focused.
I think you said a key word there, and I want to expound on something there, and that's something that's key. One of my mentors is almost forcing me to do this. He said, Howard, get up a little earlier, and for the first hour, focus on your most important priority. Whatever that is, focus on your most important priority first.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, every day you would have gotten one great thing done. I think that's real key. I got what I call life hacks, things that can help buy you time, because we all have 1,440 minutes in a day. And that's the engineering in me that breaks it down to that 1,440 minutes in a day. The last job I had, we had to use that number a lot. So it really resonates with me. But, you think about it, there are a lot of things you can do. And if you're listening to this call, I challenge you to ask you, what is your hourly worth? What is it that you want to be worth in your business per hour? So you can look at it two ways. You can say, right now, what am I paying myself? And hopefully it's not a zero. But then more importantly, what do you want to be next year? And put that value. And so as you look at tasks, don't do any task unless you love them or you're great at them that has a value of less than that hourly amount. Yeah. Because we find ourselves doing a lot of the, things that we're not great at when we could actually pay someone else to do that. Talk about that a little bit. And you're part of a team that actually does that, Dr. Nadia. So, you can expound on that a whole lot.
Yes, just having someone. I love what you talked about assigning a dollar amount to your hour because I had to do that, especially when I started out in business. I didn't necessarily have a whole lot of things going on, trying to figure things out, and it's so easy to get sucked into doing other things. But then also, one thing I work with clients with as well is start as you grow your business, identify those tasks that you can start to delegate and pay other people to do, so that you're not having to do them, and you start to see the power in having a team and working together and just having that that structure and that support in your day. And so what are the things that you need to do, and then what are the things that you need to delegate? So I often say delegate and automate. But you can't delegate, automate so that it's not on your plate.
I got to make sure I write that: delegate and automate.
Yes.
Because you got to do that. And that's, I think that's real key. A lot of people don't think about it from that standpoint, and you find yourself doing the, and I want to guard against saying the small things because they have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But as you grow in your business, and if you're truly becoming the CEO, and I was listening to, I mentioned Darren Hardy, I was listening to his newest book, and it said, be a quitter. He said he was interviewing a billionaire, and the billionaire told him, the key thing is to be a quitter. Quit doing stuff.
Yes.
Quit doing stuff. So you got to identify what that stuff is and quit doing the stuff. Hey, for you on Periscope that's joining in with us, and a few more people just jumped in online. We're talking about your daily agenda and how to maximize, how to get the most juice out of that day, if you would. That day is like an orange, and you just got to squeeze the most out of it. So we're trying to just talk about a few things. I have Dr. Nadia Brown on with us. So you want to make sure, thanks for the hearts on Periscope there. delegate. I mean, they just blowing up a little bit saying, hey, delegate and automate, because that's what you
Yes.
should do. I'm going to jump back over here to the slide. I want to kind of put up how I've laid out my day for tomorrow. Uh, just a few things to do tomorrow. So I'm going to jump over here real quick. That's how my day looks. And this is a system that we actually have. You can go over to Facebook and pull down the growth planner, and the growth planner actually has every day of the week laid out to where you can literally write your day out the day before. And that's something we coach and train on is for you to do that. And I would challenge you to think about doing that. But as you look at that, a lot of people talk to, and some of my clients saying, Howard, I get stressed. I get stressed because I don't have enough time. So there's a couple things I want you to do. Is number one is realize that there's no magic wand for any situation. Okay? I mean, be comfortable with that. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then the second thing is explore different methods, different techniques. The growth planner that I created is actually me experimenting for the last 2.5, 3 years, just changing and tweaking things. There was at one point my sister used to say, all right, what are we changing now? What are we changing this month, every month? What are we changing this month? And, because a lot of times she was tweaking the forms and so forth. And then find what works for you. I think that is the key thing. Find what works for you and just keep doing it. Dr. Brown, if you would talk about that, how do you help clients find what works for them?
I think a big thing is giving them permission to do it differently. A lot of times people feel like, they've been taught a certain way, and when they find out it doesn't work, they feel like they're the ones that are flawed. And I'm like, no, figure out the way that works for you. What works for me may not work for you. And then I remind people that we're all in different seasons of life as well. I'm married, but I don't have children. There are a lot of things that I can do that a mom, that a mother with small children can't do, because she has different priorities. She has different things that's going on in her life, versus what I have going on. And so to compare herself to me and my schedule and my routine is unfair and it's unrealistic. So just looking at that, understanding your style, and then, like you said, adapting it to your style. But one thing I always remind people is of life that you're in, and make those adjustments based on that. And so, not falling into the comparison trap, looking at how your style is different and then feeling like I don't measure up. But I love that you're just like, no one size fits all. And so you just have to, roll with it and adjust as needed.
I think that's real key, because no 2 days are ever alike. I don't care how well you plan that day. You saw my schedule. And on that sheet, in that planner, we actually have 10 lines. I think it's 10 lines we put there. Let's see, let's go back over here. Yeah, 10 lines that allows you to write things that you did not plan, because there are going to be phone calls that come. There are going to be some emergencies. People want you to not respond to, they want you to react to their emergencies. Hey, I forgot to do this, and can you do this? And that's going to happen. And we got to be okay with that and understand how to process that. And I think that's very key.
That
as
is key.
Go ahead, keep going.
I was going to just throw in, and for a great example was this past, I believe it was Thursday, I was scheduled to go to a meeting. And I got up that morning, I went to the gym. I noticed that my tire looked a little crazy, and I was like, I don't know about that. And I ended up, but on my way to the meeting, I didn't feel comfortable driving the car until I had someone check my tire. So long story short, I ended up having to go to the tire shop. There was a nail in the tire. They had to replace the tire. I was late to my meeting. She was very understanding, but like you said, it totally threw. It was something that was unplanned, but it was very important because it prevented me from being on the side of the road with a flat tire, which would have made it worse. And I just had to have that flexibility in the plan. But, those things that I did not plan to have a nail in the tire. That was not part of my daily plan.
The thing about this, we cannot rehearse this because, Dr. Brown, the next slide actually talks about that. This is from Franklin Covey, or Mr. Covey, Stephen Covey. He talks about, what quadrant should you operate in most of the time? And a lot of times we're either in urgent and important or urgent and not important. If you're going across if you're looking at the slide and you're going across from left to right, 1, 2, and then 3 and 4, we really want to be over there important but not urgent. And that requires planning.
Mm-hmm.
And down at the red, you almost never want to be down there in the red. Why are you doing urgent things that are not important? I mean, be okay with saying, so what? Not me. Okay, be okay with that. Too many times we want to save the world and then we hurt our own selves. I think that's something that you really talk to well with women in particular. Sometimes women have that challenge of saying, hey, I'm supposed to help everyone. How do you move through that? How do you move away from that?
I remind myself that no is a complete sentence. And one of the things that I've borrowed from Shay Brown
Say that again. No one is
is,
a complete sentence.
no is a complete sentence. I don't owe anyone an explanation. And then I know that there are still a lot of women who feel uncomfortable with that. So then I just, what I like, one of the things that Shay says a lot is, is that the best use of my time? And I use that even with myself. There are times when I've, in quadrant 4 where I'm doing stuff that's not urgent and not important, like scrolling through Facebook in the middle of the day. Neither one, it doesn't fit. And so, again, just looking at what's important, what's urgent, what's the value of my time, and it helps me to refocus. And so you need those reminders because we all get off track. And so, but yeah, just no is a complete sentence, and I don't have to feel guilty for saying no.
I'm going to show a couple things here that will help, hopefully help, and we call them hacks. Little tools and secrets that we can go through and really help us. Number one, I think you should block off quiet time to work at your desk. I'm in an office environment, so the phone's ringing, and I'm in the office, and they don't see me on the phone. They're like, give him the call. I'm like, no, I'm working on something. I'm in a meeting. Nobody's in your office. Yeah, I am in a meeting. You're not on the phone. I'm in a meeting with myself. Schedule meetings with yourself and let people know that you have a meeting schedule. What are your thoughts on that, or how do you help your clients work through that?
I love that. I think it's important that we do have that time. One thing I tell them, take time out to work on the business and not in the business. And so when you have time to take a step back to evaluate what's working, what's not working, to identify priorities, because if you get stuck in reactive mode, always putting out fires, you lose sight of what's really important because you're always operating on what's most urgent. And so to just block out that time and maybe even start with 10 minutes, to really look at what's going on, identify what needs to be addressed, and being okay with addressing things later, I think is huge for a lot of leaders.
As I look at the other ones, they're still on the screen here. Those are something I used to do, and I think I'm gonna get back to it. I used to actually tell people when they can reach me each day. I'll be returning calls between this time and this time. If it's an emergency, I'm saying if it's urgent, call my office. And if it's an emergency, dial 911. That's what I used to say all the time. Because people will leave you a voicemail, and a lot of voicemails would say, "I'll call you back at my earliest convenience." So you kind of let them know what your schedule is. And then the other thing is meeting times. Because have you ever gone to meet with someone and they want you to wait another 15 minutes after you got there? How does that make you feel? So I think that is a key thing in, whether virtually or live. And then also preparing a meeting agenda, as you get started. So I think all of those are key things. And then when you look at projects, and who do not have projects? If you're working on big things, you're going to have projects. So you got to break them up into small parts where you can see accomplishments as well as develop timelines. And I think Dr. Brown has already said this one: delegate and automate.
Yeah.
I got to add automate to the slide there. But delegate, yes. Delegate and automate. and then allow extra time. So if you would just, share just one thing that'll help someone implement that, because we share these tips, we share what we call life hacks or tips, but people struggle to implement them, and that's the key thing. How do you help people implement them, Dr. Brown?
I think one thing, I remind them, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, and then really start with what's your end goal and then work from there. We have different worksheets that help them, look at, okay, here's the top goal and start to break those out into smaller action steps. Um, but one example I think about when you think about a big goal is when I started September, I had accepted a challenge to get in 100 miles for the entire month. And it sounds like a lot. I remember when I first told my husband, he was like, "Do you know how many miles that is?" And so I believe when you start to really, yeah, it's a lot.
It's like that's from here to Tucson almost.
I know, right? And I was like, okay. But like you said, to really look at your calendar, break out the numbers. And so we had a couple different options for how to accomplish that goal. And it wasn't so bad. You weren't having to do 10 miles every day. Um, and then also to track it, I think is really important as you start to see your progress, because now that we're about halfway through the month, I'm pretty much on track to almost 50 miles. And so it's just like you get more excited about it when you actually start to track your progress. And so again, what's your style? Do you like to track it electronically? Do you need something on your desk, a visual to say, go, go, go? And you see that whether it's tracking your money, their income and revenue, or it's your task. And so you really start to look at that. But I think one of the things we do is we set these big goals and we never really sit down to actually look at what it takes to make it happen. What resources do you need to make it happen? Is that systems? Is that people? Is that money? Like all these things you need to take into consideration. And then, like you mentioned, delegate. Not everything needs to be done by you. And, fire yourself. That's something I have to tell write myself a pink slip, because I have an assistant and there are days when I take stuff off her plate, put it on my plate. And it's like, no, 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 that is your task. So learn to let it go. And I think that's a big challenge for us, especially those of us who are small business owners.
And now, how do you do that? I mean, a lot of times people will say, hey, I can do it better than them. How do you do that? Because that's something that challenge I have sometimes too. And I'm training a new assistant. Unfortunately, I lost my assistant. She's no longer with me. But how do you do that?
One thing I just remind myself is I have a lot, and I hired her for a reason.
Hmm.
And we have meetings, we have regular check-in meetings, and I let her know what it is that I need. If I want it done a certain way, I'll provide that input. But one of the things that I do is when I bring people on, I look to bring on people that are better than me in those areas. And so I trust her expertise and letting it go. And so a big piece of it is trust. And then giving them the space and grace to make mistakes. All of us make mistakes. We're not perfect, and neither are they. And I think sometimes we're just like, oh my gosh, we're so much harder on people. And so we do that, but we have regular communication. I think that's a big key. So it's not like we've gone weeks and weeks and weeks without talking to one another. We also use a tool called Basecamp where we track and see we can see what's going on and what progress we're making and who has what as we assign and delegate tasks. So if you want to use a tool like that, it also really helps.
Yeah, that is key, especially if you work in a virtual environment and you're not there. And then even if you are in the office, how do you check in and check those parameters? I know one of the things that I do, I have my assistant to do a daily recap of what she did throughout the day. And initially they said, "Oh, you're trying to check up on me." No, I said it helps you also to sit and say, okay, what is happening here? You think about it when you go back and look at your daily agenda and write what you accomplished, what else came up that you didn't plan. You're really able to say, okay, what's next? Where am I spending my time at the best? And I think that is the key part of that. How are you, as in the words of Shay Brown, quote Shay Brown, what is the best use of my time?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think it really boils back down to that. As I look at a couple other things, I want to cover one area that's real big as we talk about the daily agenda, and when we get back over to the screen share, and that is procrastination. And this is a little bonus that we're giving here tonight. So when I talk about procrastination, procrastination, if you looked at a definition, means delaying a task it should be a priority. The ability to overcome procrastination and tackling that action, they have the biggest positive impact in our lives. I think that is a strong statement. You know, look at the quote at the right from Martin Luther. How soon, not now, becomes never. Have you ever experienced that? Not now becomes never.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm experiencing that with getting my next book done. Yeah, that one has been huge. Yeah. And it does, it goes, not now from today, and then a day turns into a week, and then a week turns into a month, and before you know, you're looking at a year and things haven't gotten done. And then you have to wonder, is that, like how important was that? And so again, looking at, the cause for procrastination, because a lot of times procrastination is deals with fear, or it may deal with not having enough information or enough support in getting something done. And then also a lot of times it just deal with, it wasn't a bigger or high enough priority because you have so many other things that are going on at that time. And so we just had a conversation as a team and said, all right, let's just focus on book for 2016 because so many great things are going on and going well in the business right now. Let's focus on that. So we made a conscious decision to put that off. But initially, Howard, it was straight up procrastination. It was just, I was just so overwhelmed and I kept delaying it.
I don't feel like writing it down. I got to write it block. And really, it wasn't even block. It may have been a break, but I'm going to call it a whole block.
A conscious decision to delay.
Conscious decision to delay. I mean, that is not good. So I'm going to remember that the next time I get up in the morning, gotten up, and then choose not to go walking. I call it walking because I do more walking than I do running, right?
I love it.
So eventually it'll become wanting, I'll be running more than I'm walking. Eventually I'll be running. But I digress there. But, you touched on both of those. I think one of the things there, if you can see the slide, no clear deadline. People don't have a clear time frame on when they're going to get things done. So it kind of lingers out there, just out there in the space. And then, you don't have the resources available, because anytime you're doing a project, you got to ask yourself, do I have the resources to make this happen? I know right now you're working on a conference coming up, in about 3 weeks or 4 weeks now?
Yes, we are less than 30 days away on October 9th and 10th. And you talk about having a lot on your plate. So ever host an event and yeah, your schedule will fill up quickly. So we are excited about the conference Womanpreneur 15.
So how can people get information on that? We'll talk a little bit more about it before we get off, but ever since it came up, they can go to what website?
They can visit womanpreneur15.com, and that's WOMANPRENEUR15.com to get more information and to register. It's going to be here in sunny Phoenix, Arizona, October 9th and 10th. However, you can attend live. You can come out to Phoenix or join us, or you could attend via live stream.
All right. And, that one speaks to the last one that if you're looking at the list, why we procrastinate, task feels overwhelming. A whole basket of things coming at you at once, and it just kind of overwhelms you. I'm going to go real quick on some steps to help people overcome procrastination. I'm going to go through them real quick and delegate, ask for advice, clear deadlines, delegate. It comes up again, chop it up. Breaks it down into smaller pieces. Have a reward for yourself. And I know when playing golf was a priority, if I hit certain number of calls and appointments, I could go play golf on Friday. Do it now. John Maxwell, we were in a training not too long ago, and he was sharing he called it the DNA of an entrepreneur. And he said, one of the things about entrepreneurs, they really love to do it now. 15-minute rule. Give yourself 15 minutes on that project and then move on to something else. And you'll find that it sometimes gets you through that bubble. Remove distractions. And there was one other one I didn't put on there was change environments. Sometimes you might need to leave the office and go to the library.
Mm-hmm.
Some nights when I'm trying to work on projects or late, I go to the coffee shop, the all-night coffee shop, and work. And people's like, well, why go there? Because if I stay home, I'm going to sleep. I know that.
Right.
I know that. So therefore, let me go to Louis and sit down and get a table in the corner and drink a half a pot of coffee that night. But no, if you want to add to any of those, please do, because that's the key thing. I want people to get out of this on Sunday nights of how do you have your best week ever and how do you make things happen.
I love that. I really like when you talked about changing environments. I think that's huge for especially those of us that write. It's so easy when you're writing. There's just something about having to take the focus time to write and, not start surfing the web and do all these things and really gather your thoughts that causes us to want to do stuff like the dishes need to be done. You want to go do a load of laundry. And so I found that to get away, get out of my environment, get out of the office, and go to somewhere else, it really allows me to really focus. And it may sound strange to be in Starbucks or someplace like that where there are people there, but why you're there, and just making that switch in your environment helps you to really focus and get the task done.
Yeah, I think that is key. And I know that was when I finished my last book. Ironically, I went to a conference, but I didn't attend the conference. I'll say this, I like cigars, and there's a great cigar shop in Orlando. So I went to one day of John Maxwell conference and then spent 3 days writing. And then the back end, the fourth day, I went to one day. But I got the book finished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was a key thing because everyone thought I was at the conference. They didn't know that I was what I was doing. So they thought, okay, I won't bother Howard. He's in meetings all day. And that's sometimes that just being away from your primary office, especially if you office with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something that's, real key. I want to, last thing we want to talk about is just how to really jumpstart that productivity. And, just think about tonight is Sunday night when we're having this call, or it could be any night. How do you have that best day ever? How do you have that next best day? And I think one of the things you want to do is really, first of all, go over to our Facebook group and pull down a journal. If you don't have a planning system, we have one called the Growth Planner. And it works if you work it. Any system will work if you work it.
That's good.
Some are a little better than others, but any system will work that if you work it. And that's the key thing. So first of all, I challenge you to number one is write it down. The best quote I've heard, Dr. Brown, is the dullest pencil is better than the sharpest mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, just remember that. And then the other one was somewhere between the head, the lips, and the pencil tips, thoughts begin to change.
Oh, I like that.
And you think about that sometimes as you begin to write things out, you're like, oh gosh, new revelations come to you because you're really beginning to put those thoughts you have in your head into motion. So develop a notebook, whether it's electronically or on paper. I use Evernote religiously. So if I don't get any commission off of it, but evernote.com, go there, use it. I mean, I got notes from back 3-4 years ago and recordings and everything, all at my fingertip right here. I can pull them up right here on my tablet. Cross over, cross out completed items. If you finish stuff, forget about it. And then carry over uncompleted tasks. Then I really want to focus here on something that you can do tonight. Number one, plan the night before. What will your day look like tomorrow? So that way you hit the ground running. You're full speed. Keep your journal with you, or keep your phone with you. So if you think of something, write it down. Mm-hmm. Save it, record it to yourself. And that's the great thing about Evernote. You can actually record something on your phone and then send the email right into Evernote. And it's filed. Sense of satisfaction, that's reward. When something great happens, reward yourself. So many times we beat ourselves up for the bad things or things we didn't do, that we forget to reward ourselves for the things that we did do. So I want to challenge you to do that. And then, as one of my mentors told me, he said, Howard, if you got to forward it over 3 times, forget it. Okay, if you keep drawing arrows saying, sure, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Sure, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Ask yourself, am I really going to do it? And just take it off your list and figure out when you're going to get it done. Any thoughts on that, Doctor, on those tips to really maximizing your priorities?
I love those. I love those tips. I have my notebook here, so I'm taking notes too. I would just add, one of the things that I love the priority piece, because what I've started doing with my team is, in my coaching accountability partners, is each morning I identify 3 things that I want to get done by the end of that day. Those are my priorities. Those are my top 3 outcomes, and I send it to them. And then I report to them at the end of the day, did you get it done? And if I talk to them throughout the day and I'm talking about doing something that doesn't align with those top 3, they'll check me and be like, what are you doing? Is that the best use of your time? To go back to that question, because you're doing stuff, you're doing activities, you're quote unquote busy, but it's not moving you in the direction of accomplishing those tasks and getting those priorities done. So I think that's important.
And that's one of the things that I've started doing now, is identifying them for the quarter. When you look at those big projects, what are those strategic priorities for your quarter and big projects, and let your team know that. And I actually had that to happen to me once. Someone came to my office, wanted to talk to me about something, and my assistant at the time, she said, I don't think he's going to agree to it, because that's not what he's focused on right now. Because they knew where my priorities were. Here's what we were focused on as a team. So I think that is very, very key, that you share that with your team. And so as you look at it, ask yourself, in your team and also your family, because there'll be times, especially as you have kids, and there'll be seasons, and you heard me start off by talking about work-life balance. Balance implies things have to be equal. I call it work-life harmony. Like right now, your husband won't get much of your time because you're trying to get this conference going. But after the conference, that will shift some. And that's how we have to be okay, finding that cycle, finding that harmony that we can live with in our lives. Talk about a situation where you've helped a client put their life in harmony.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I just having a client who was working a lot in her business was a little, honestly, she was frustrated. Her husband was frustrated because she wasn't generating the revenue that she wanted to see. And you know what it's like, you're building a business, you're doing a lot of stuff, and you're not seeing the revenue. It's like, okay, this is out of whack. And one thing we talked about was actually increasing her rates. And so by making that one tweak, by increasing her rates, and now she's getting more revenue for the time expended, she was starting to see that she could work with fewer clients, make more money, and now have more time at the end of the day to spend with her family, not be so exhausted, help the kids with the homework, the husband's not happy, like these so sometimes simple tweaks like that, like simply raising your rates, can really help make a massive difference in your business.
Well, I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, is, identify your worth, but also part of that equation, and we'll be glad to share that. I'll post that in the Facebook group, is to identify how many hours a day you want to work, because that's going to be part of that equation. And, and then the other side, and kind of get into a little marketing here, who's your best client? Who's your A client? And sometimes when that C client comes, you may refer them to a competitor or an affiliate, because that's not your best use of time.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that is something that we want to, you want to look at. So those are just a few tips that we utilize. And when I use it, when I do it, I have my best week ever. And that's the key thing, is how do you get in that position of keep having your best week ever? If you want to share a little bit about the conference, Dr. Brown, please do. I want you to, share a little more detail about the upcoming Womanpreneur Conference. 15.
Absolutely.
Floor is yours.
Sure. So, Womanpreneur 15 is a conference. We're bringing women together to help them get the tools and resources that they need to move forward in their business. And we're looking at the whole woman. So, we're not just focused on the marketing and the sales piece, also the health, the family piece, all those pieces play together. I like to call it work-life integration. My work and my life are definitely integrated and they spill over into one another. I don't do a great job of keeping them separate, and they all affect one another. And like Howard said, my husband understands I have a conference going on, so there may be some things we have to sacrifice and postpone until November, or at least after the conference. Because after the conference, I actually have a women's retreat. So I have 2 events this in October. I don't know what I was thinking, but at some point we'll be able to, spend some time together. And what we are looking to do is really bring women together to show that we can work together, that we can help grow our businesses together, and to also encourage one another to share those stories. I think one of the challenges that women face is just not being really honest about what it is that it took for us to achieve our levels of success. And so we're bringing in some great ladies to share their stories of success, to share their expertise. And like I said, you can either attend live or you can attend online. Our goal is to actually have 100,000 online viewers. So we are looking to really rock it out doing in the virtual space. And you can register at www.womanpreneur15.com. And it's actually free to attend. So you have no excuse not to be there and not to join us online.
So get your butt down to Phoenix and attend. Who are some of the great speakers that you're having?
So some of our speakers are Cheryl Wood from back east, and she's coming out, and she's her mantra is playtime is over. So we are so excited to have her come out. Stephanie Burns, she's the founder and CEO of Chick CEO. She's flying in from Austin, Texas. We have Tawan TJ Mercer, the reality TV coach, where she's going to share ways to get that publicity, to help that exposure, to help grow your business without necessarily hiring a publicist. And she's coming in from California. So those are just some of the speakers that we're going to have. We have Gelly Ackenblit, who is the founder of networkingphoenix.com, who will show you how to network, but also talk about her journey of building something that seems so non-traditional, with what she has helped to build and change networking here in the Phoenix area. But she's also a new mom, so sharing her experience building a massive business that is now going nationwide, and being a new mom and balancing all of that. So those are just some of the speakers that will be in the house. I'm also speaking, so you'll get to hear from me as well.
It sounds exciting. I think it's going to add a lot of value to women. So that is the key thing. Make sure you go to womanpreneur.com. Womanpreneur 15 or Womanpreneur. I'm sorry, I didn't have the notes in front of me. Womanpreneur15.com, and you can attend live or online, and that's the great thing about it. I think we have you back, Dr. Brown.
Yes.
Okay. But as we get ready to close out, I had a couple quotes from some people you may recognize, some names you may recognize, and just some tips that they had. But one last thing here, and this is just something I love, is too many times people want to have things perfect before they go out and do it. And I always say, done beats perfect every day of the week. And this here just resonates that. Ready, fire, aim. Too many times we spend all our time aiming and we never pull the trigger on what we want to do. Combination of over planning, not willing to take action, and just always saying, I got to get it right. I got to lay it out before I even go start. Do you ever see anybody have that challenge?
Yes. And it needs to be perfect before I can do anything. I'm like, take the action, because that need to be perfect sometimes, a lot of times, is driven by fear. And if you're not careful, fear will hold you back from achieving your dreams.
And you think about it, most big companies, I would probably say 99.9% did not become big through the way in which they planned. Every year they're reevaluating their plans. Every quarter they're reevaluating their plans at some level. You know, as you look at these here, a couple quotes. First one is from Harvey Mackay. You know, time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can't spend it. Once you lost it, you'll never get it back. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love it because it is, and it's also time is the one thing that all of us has the same amount of, equal amounts, and it's all up to us on how we prioritize and how we use it.
That's the key thing. I mean, we all have, as I said, 1,440 minutes in a day, or what is it, 84,200 seconds, I believe, in the course of a day. So we all have the same. Tick tock, tick tock. Your watch runs the same speed as mine. If well, my wife sometimes runs a little off, but anyway, we all have 1,440. Napoleon Bonaparte: take time to deliberate, but when the time for action arrives, stop thinking and go. And I like to say, stop thinking and do. Your thoughts?
I love that because that's whole paralysis by overanalysis. And as you mentioned, my husband's an engineer. I also have an engineering degree, and there are times when we can start planning stuff out, and it's like, no, at some point, just do, because you'll figure it out. You learn more from experience, and so while a plan is nice and it's necessary to have one, I think sometimes we try to make it too comprehensive, and we just need to have that skeleton, get out there and do stuff, and make adjustments as necessary.
Yeah, you don't want to have that the world's most beautiful model and then never build a house.
Right.
Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. And this is from Steve Jobs, who unfortunately is not with us now. And as you read this, just imagine he didn't waste time.
Not at all. And he accomplished, I mean, look at the amazing legacy that he has left. And, people still talk about him. He's like a legend because of what he was willing to commit to, even when other people didn't like it or didn't agree with his vision. So I love that quote.
And then the last one is Ben Franklin. You may delay, but time will not.
As my granny would say, time waits for no one. And then you look around and life will have passed you by. So definitely get out there, take risks, try things out. And I think it's a quote that says you don't regret at the end of your life. You won't regret the things that you tried, but the things that you didn't. And so I feel like, just making the time to go out and go for it.
Yeah. So as we, get ready to close this out, I like to keep it around an hour at the most, be respectful of time because, time is a limited resource that we have. They're always finding more natural resources as technology becomes better, but time still hasn't changed. So as we get ready to close out, Dr. Nada, you're going to be joining me on our radio show. What program are you going to be talking about? Because that's really going to be we're looking for you to come in and just add value. Tonight you were hanging out with me, talking about a daily agenda, and added a lot of value to us. But people will be able to join us on 106.1 if you're locally in the Baton Rouge area, or you can go to TuneIn Radio to WTQT on TuneIn or WTQT.org and join us live and hang out with us. And then you can also catch us on Periscope, and we'll be scoping while we're on the air on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. So that means you got to get up early Tuesday morning. I'm glad you committed to that. But what are you going to be sharing with us?
I am going to be talking about take off your cape, how to build your dream team. We're going to talk more about how to delegate, how to let it go, so that you can build the team that you need to help you achieve your big vision.
So make sure you join in with us on that and learn how to take off your cape. That's right. Take off your cape and quit trying to be Superwoman or Superman. I think
absolutely.
Quit trying to leap over those buildings in a single bound. Let the team carry you over the building. That's what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be having a good time, and we'd love for you to join us and just learn more about what Dr. Brown does. And make sure you go to Womanpreneur and be one of those guests. If you can make it out to Phoenix, be in the house, because there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, and the connections, those connections that happen. I mean, it's the conversations behind the conversations that really start to develop, where relationships would truly develop. I mean, that's how I met Dr. Brown. Really was up in Silver Spring, Maryland. We've been online, on chats, but that was cool. But really got to know her and hung out for a couple of days, and really got to know each other a whole lot better and connected. And that's the key thing you want to be. You want to be in a relationship business.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Brown, we're going to let you and your husband go and enjoy your Sunday afternoon, or you get more planning done for the conference, and all those folks you're going to call tomorrow to get, as they say in the industry, get the butts in the seats.
Yes.
In the room. So you want to make sure you do that. But again, thanks a lot for being with us tonight. And the key thing is, we always close out in saying is, go out and have your best week ever. When you have your best week ever, put enough of those together, you're going to have your best month ever. And before you know it, you're having your best year ever. And you can keep doing that. So Dr. Brown, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Last parting words you want to say.
Go make it happen, and take the tips. Don't just write stuff down, but actually implement it, and it will change your life.
Hey, the real value is in doing.
Yes.
What people pay for is what you do for them and how you make them feel. So make someone feel great this week, and you will increase the value to the marketplace. Hey, take care. God bless, and we shall see you on the other side.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.